I want to say welcome back, Valley Free Radio listeners, and welcome to our Northampton Community Television audience. This is Rick Haggerty, kicking it for peace, culture, and education, right here on 103.3 FM Northampton, Valley Free Radio. Online at valleyfreeradio.org. I hope you'll tune into my show Sunday mornings, 8 to 10 a.m., replaying now Tuesday nights, 11 p.m. To 1 a.m. And I'm so very happy to have with me this morning my guest, and I want to make sure I pronounce your name correctly, Amar. Amar Fuller. Thank you so much for being with us. And Amar is here to talk about a variety of things, including her role in the epigenetics, how your lifestyle affects your destiny, Health Bazaar and Lecture, September 15th, 2018, on the West End event space at Eastworks, and that's Suite 160, 5 to 9:30 p.m., and it's hosted by the Great Oak Collaborative, and the little blurb says, join us for a very special evening that is centered around you and your health, and they'll kick off the event with the Health Bazaar. You get to sample products and speak with local vendors across the health and wellness field, and will be followed by a lecture given by Brian Clement, PhD, LN, NMD, and director of the Hippocrates Health Institute, and so on and so forth. So what a very interesting event, and I bet you're very excited to be organizing this. And could you tell us a little bit about the event? Maybe we'll start with that.
Absolutely. I'm excited about it. It really is going to be a reflection on the Hippocrates Health Institute, in the sense that Brian Clement and his wife co-direct this amazing, world-renowned spa. And it teaches us lifestyle. It's not just a diet. People know this place because of the raw food sprout wheatgrass juice regimen. However, it really targets everything about us, our physicality, our emotions, our spirituality, and so on and so forth. And the bazaar at this event at the Eastworks building will have people representing different areas of health and practicing with people who would like to take mini sessions in an array of healing modalities, massage and deep healing work. Someone is going to have their Beamer pad for folks to lie on and test out, and health foods, raw food, green juices, sprouts, and so on and so forth. A lot of healing music. It's just going to be wonderful.
It sounds outstanding. Yeah. Sounds really good. Now, how long have you been, eating a raw food diet and benefiting from that?
Yeah,
in so many ways.
It's been a while. I am not good with keeping track of time and dates and such. However, I did become a health educator at the Institute. I believe it was 2008. And so since then, I've been on a 99.9% raw food diet.
Wow.
I occasionally will, if I'm preparing something for someone that's, a vegan dish that's cooked and it might need to be tasted, I might take a teeny taste. When I was ill, I experimented with a little bit of cooked vegan millet, quinoa, but it's just, I really resonate with the raw living food diet.
Yeah, fantastic. So this event is centered around self-care practices and health and wellness. Such a beneficial thing for so many people to learn about this.
Absolutely. Brian Clement is a master at researching and putting into practice and helping people from any illness, stage 4 cancer, and even people who have mild problems. Anyone who sets foot in the door of this institute, even just to reboot their already good health, will magnify that and come away completely transformed. I've seen people come in there hovered over in their wheelchairs, and a week or two later, they're upright, they're walking, and everything. Tumors are shrinking. It's a place to flourish and learn what epigenetics really is, and to put it into practice, which is the lecture that he will be giving on that Saturday evening.
Wonderful. And I see that that's in West Palm Beach.
The institute is in West Palm Beach.
In West Palm Beach, yeah. Yeah.
It's just a beautiful, beautiful 40-acre piece of bliss, really. It's just, everything about it is so conscious and mindful and giving.
Wonderful, wonderful. Excuse me. Well, speaking of bliss, I thought we might start off with your prayer that you mentioned, and a little bit about the magnetic field and protective light that this seems to reinforce, or would you say reinforce, that it's already there and it reinforces it, or does it help create it, or how would you explain?
I think both.
Yeah. Okay.
I think both. I mean, we all have surrounding our physical body that magnetic field that we know as our aura, and depending on how we live our life, the aura is either very diminished or very bright. But this prayer, this mantra, creates another layer for us of protection, which we all need in these times. We get bombarded with media and everything from disease and toxicity in the environment, so we really need to have that around us.
Yeah, I would add bad drivers. Somebody pulled out in front of me my first day of teaching this year, and it was like, oh my God, it was like a roller coaster ride. And then this car just like, I had to slam on the brakes, and I was like, wow, thank goodness I was scared, but I felt protected. You know, like another, it was a couple seconds closer. It might have been a serious collision.
It's interesting that you say that, because our spiritual teacher, Yogi Bhajan, taught us this mantra to use right when we sit down in the driver's seat, put our palms together and chant it once, and that will delay any hazards on the road by 3 minutes, give or take.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, how about if we, do you want to explain it or read it? I don't know if I could read it the way we did before we spoke. How about if you read it?
I bow to the primal source of creation. I bow to creation woven throughout time. I bow to the true source of creation, the true identity of self. So I'm going to put my palms together at my heart center, and we'll just chant it one time. Ad Gure Name, Jugad Gure Name, Sat Gure Name, Siri Guru Deve Name.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right. So now you are speaking of my teaching. You are obviously someone who is rooted in physical and spiritual well-being, but you've also devoted your life to bringing that to children and caring for children. Will you talk about the Khalsa child care?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we are in Leverett, and our home is the home for little ones, 10 children every day, from infants to 5-year-olds. And I pretty much, the best that I can, mimic this lifestyle that I learned at Hippocrates, as well as what I've learned through my teacher Yogi Bhajan as a Sikh, practicing Kundalini yoga and meditation, and from some elders that I was blessed to, when they were still on this earth plane, share their path. And all of that, I feel like I've woven into a tapestry of what Cults Childcare is about. One of the unique aspects of our daycare is that we do follow a completely 100% raw, organic, vegan diet.
That's awesome. That's really cool. How old are the kids?
They're infants to 5-year-olds. So they really get like a good dose of goodness.
Raw, organic, vegan.
Yeah.
Sweetie,
plant-based.
Sweetie, if you're listening.
So I'm sure most of you know, and I'm not going to go into a big thing about why a plant-based diet is where it's at, but that's the way to heal yourself as well as our beautiful Mother Earth, our planet. If you want to help mitigate all the destruction that's happening, have one vegan meal this week, and then as much as you can, up it, because that's the way to do it.
Wow, that's outstanding. That's so, boy, what a benefit to the children and families.
Yeah.
And how do the families end up adopting any of that, those dietary
I would say
practices?
Each family is different to some degree, and they're so appreciative that at least when their children are at daycare, they're eating healthfully. They really appreciate it. And I had 2 children just graduate, 2 5-year-olds who moved along to school. And I saw the parents yesterday, and they were like, please send us, your lunchbox tips. We're struggling. We have to pack lunches now. We were so grateful for what you have done.
Yeah. Lunchboxes would be the way to go, because school lunches aren't in touch with that at all.
Exactly.
And I do want to say to folks, this is WXOJ 103.3 FM Northampton, Valley Free Radio, streaming online at valleyfreeradio.org. Excuse me. And I'm with my guest this morning, Amar Fuller, correct?
Perfect.
Okay, all right. And we're speaking about the epigenetics, how your lifestyle affects your destiny, health bazaar that's happening September 15th at the West End Event Space at Eastworks, Suite 160. And if you're not aware, that's 116 Pleasant Street in East Hampton. And that's hosted by the Great Oak Collaborative. And a guest speaker will be Brian Clement, PhD, LN, NMD, and director of the Hippocrates Health Institute. Now you also teach Kundalini yoga. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. Not only to the children, we do nature-based yoga classes at the daycare, but I also teach. We have a studio in our home, and I teach to all ages. Kundalini yoga, for me, is something I've been practicing for a long time, and I do love yoga, and I love taking other yoga classes in other yogic styles. However, Kundalini really is rich and deep in the sense that it isn't just the physical postures, the asanas, and some breathing. It really gives us a really strong self of our soul, our depth in connection with Creator and the universe. It's just so broad, and it targets every facet of our beings completely. So
wonderful. I've known of it from Sikh friends of mine in the Boston area.
Nice.
Yeah, one of them was a chiropractor who still comes out here actually, and one was a teacher, and another, kind of practicing Kundalini yoga. So the Yogi Bhajan you mentioned, the Indian spiritual master, and then Brian and Anna Maria Clement, the directors of the Hippocrates Health Institute. And now you've mentioned those. Could you tell me about grandmother Lillian?
Sure.
Yeah. It's an elder, right? A shaman elder?
Yes.
Native
Grandmother
elder.
Lillian is no longer with us on this physical plane, although I feel like she's with me now. Years ago, I a few times went to Birch Island, way up north in Canada, where she hosts on their sacred ceremonial ground Vision Quest fasts. And I remember that was in the time where I was still pretty insecure about certain kinds of things and mostly waited patiently, humbly for answers instead of being a little bit more assertive and maybe asking questions. But on that path, people would have a spirit name. And so after knowing her for many years, I decided at this time when I went up for the fast, I would offer her tobacco. That's a way to ask for something. It's a way of praying in their tradition, and ask for a spirit name. And I couldn't believe I did it. It was like, and to get to this fast, you have to bring a giveaway, a gift at the end. And there were probably going to be 50 people in the community. And I decided at the last minute to go. I didn't have everything prepared, and I thought, what am I going to give? It's not like you go and buy store-bought gifts. So I decided I would wrap a really inspiring article about enlightenment with a little ribbon for each person, do 50 photocopies, and put a piece of sage. And it was all about shared leadership, and it talked about enlightenment. And I was so stressed out about being this, white woman, even though I practice not having limitations and, titles and names. I couldn't get over it, and I was so nervous about giving this gift out. Well, when I got there, the first sweat lodge ceremony, the shaman elder spoke about enlightenment. So I completely relaxed.
That's fantastic.
And at the very end, after the 4-day fast, grandmother called me into the lodge. I sat down beside her, and when the sweat lodge ceremony was over, she decided at the last minute, oh, my dear friend Amar, her spirit name, Wasea Bimwidot, carrier of enlightenment. So that was her knowing what I was asking for. I never talked about any of this with her, but she knew it all.
That's amazing. Wow, what a great story. And now I understand, you care for children, but you also have children and grandchildren as well.
I do.
And are they all right in the area here?
Yes, I'm
Wonderful.
So blessed. I have two live in the same house that we live in. My husband and I, and housemates, and my daughter and her family live in an apartment, so they have their own private space, but we're connected.
Oh, and
my other
wonderful.
Grandchildren just live a few minutes by car.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Wow. And you're a musician as well?
Well, I play the guitar.
I guess that's being a musician, right? Well, maybe another time you can bring it with you and play something. That's so wonderful. Again, if you just tuned in, we're speaking with Amar Fuller, and we're talking about her life, and also talking about the epigenetics, how your lifestyle affects your destiny, Health Bazaar, happening at Eastworks, Suite 160, and that's on September 15th, 5 to 9:30 p.m. And you can go to their Facebook event page and register, let them know you're coming along. And again, it would be Epigenetics, how your lifestyle affects your destiny. So I hope I hope everyone comes out to that, and that would be really wonderful to have you there. So let's go. Would you like to talk about the story, epigenetics? Go ahead. Yeah.
Let me say something about epigenetics.
Yes.
I'm not a real science person. However, I respect the truth about information in that regard. Epigenetics is it's a pretty heady topic. And when I was doing my own research on it, it was pretty elaborate when, getting into the mitochondria of the cells and the DNA and the genes and all that. But what it really boils down to, in my way of expressing it, is it's like being in the box or being out of the box. And a box, when you think of it, it's a 4-line structure. You go in it and it's limiting. You're in it. And so I look at that as no choice. And that's the genetic part. The genetics is when a person will think, oh, my sister-in-law, my sister, my mother, they have breast cancer. I'm sure I'm going to have breast cancer. It's that mentality where you got dealt out, this card from the deck, and there's no getting around it. That's being in the box. But when you're out of the box, and that to me is what the epigenetics part is, it's you embrace your choice. You have a being that you relate to, and you work with your own self, your own spirit. And when you get in touch with that, you have the answers. And we need support around that. We don't get educated properly in trusting ourselves, that intuitive faculty, that lineage that our great-grandmothers and all the healers had, it has really gone to the wayside too much. And those of us who stay in touch need to keep that and honor that and not bow to the doctor. Doctors are amazing, and there are lots of amazing MDs. However, the industry of health is not where it's at, and we need to gather ourselves. And so that epigenetics is speaking to the choice that you can make for yourself on what you think, what you eat, how you move, your environment, and your emotional, spiritual self. This is self-care, and this is what this institute teaches about.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And I mentioned that Lizzie, my fiance, is a health educator. She's got me off of sugar,
Awesome.
Starch and bread. I eat a kind of like it's a coconut wrap or something if I want to have, instead of bagels or bread or whatever. And without even trying, like, I've lost 8 pounds, but I just feel better.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, it was almost like a loss, but now it just feels so much more of a conscious decision.
Exactly.
and gaining more consciousness rather than losing something that I loved that wasn't good for me.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're, like the onion, peeling away the layers. We have so many layers. I feel like when we're born, we're pure. That's the name of my daycare. Khalsa means pure ones. We're pure, and then as we move through life, we get told things, not necessarily intentional by our parents, maybe a tone of voice or a harsh word, and we get marred all the way through from, bombarded with this from all directions, and it adds up. And then our immune system weakens, our aura weakens, and that's why we need to learn everything about how we and nature are one and take care of ourselves in a good, wholesome, natural way.
So the we and nature being one, it's almost goes hand in hand with a lack of consciousness around, taking care of ourselves, and lack of as a society, and lack of consciousness in taking care of our environment. And now we've got, problems.
Exactly.
Healthcare problems and environmental problems, with these raging storms and, fires that are out of control and the heat that, is, taking lives, and things that we never saw in such intensity in the past, in the maybe the 60s and, well, in the 70s, I guess, it started going downhill, but
Right.
It's pretty dangerous stuff.
Yeah, the tipping scale is really tipped. It's sad.
Yeah.
And it's really, we each need to take the time, not only to sit and meditate. I always say meditation, not medication. And if you relate, relate in nature, that's why I love the elders, because everything we did was outside on the earth, all of our ceremonies. But just to pray for the earth and to take care of ourselves and to eat that vegan food, it's not difficult. It might be different, but when you appreciate what is around us, the beauty that there is, we need to do these things to keep it alive and keep it going.
That's so wonderful. I love the appreciation part. Just yesterday, I had to get a vehicle for my son who was driving up to college at GCC. And you look on Craigslist and you talk to friends and everything else. And then, Lizzie, my fiance, was encouraging me to go a little bit higher quality, which meant a little bit higher money. But I met this incredible couple, across town near where I used to live, across town. And, she's in school for acupuncture. The woman who owned the car, it kind of came through her family. I was like, well, how more reliable could it be? It was just the family owned it. And she's an acupuncture teacher in training for it, and had done some, other teaching. But, the kids running around, I just felt like so connected to these people. I'm like, well, it's more money, and I'm supposed to be doing more. And, through the whole thing, I came home, and it was kind of a whirlwind. And I sat there with my 10-month-old. And he needed to be held at the moment. And so I said, well, I'll just do a little chanting in gratitude for finding this reliable vehicle. And now my reliable vehicle goes to my son, my past, and he'll be driving reliably. And I'll afford the payments and, and thank you, universe, for this, and for, to Lizzie for encouraging this, so it all came together. But I love the appreciation part. It's something that I think, and I teach that to my students, the character, one of the aspects of one of the character traits I like to teach, along with the curriculum, that's required, is gratitude. And I think we forget that, at times. And again, I do want to say, if you just tuned in, we're with Amar Fuller, and we're talking about the Epigenetics Health Bazaar, How Your Lifestyle Affects Your Destiny, the Health Bazaar and Lecture, September 15th at the West End Event Space at Eastworks, and that's Suite 116 Pleasant Street in East Hampton, hosted by the Great Oak Collaborative. So we're just about out of time, but did you want to tell did you want to talk about the Whoopi story, or do we have a moment, or your affirmative thought, productive movement, pristine?
I'll just wrap it up.
Lifestyle.
And say,
okay.
First of all, I want to thank you for hosting this, and it feels like a true honor to be here and share with you.
Oh, thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. And the Whoopi story, as Rick mentioned, is something that I'm working on that's true to life. It was a real happening at my daycare and continues to be. So I'm really looking forward to publishing this very short storybook for children of all ages. So a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, asked me one day would I like to write a book with him. And while we were talking about it, this Whoopi story came up, and he said to me, "Is Whoopi a real word?" And I said, "Oh, I don't think so. It was the word that this family used for this blankie, this kind of piece of material that this little girl carried around with her. It was a security blanket."
Oh, yeah.
And But I looked it up, and on Wikipedia, it said a whoopee is, for a child, a blankie or a security item, anything of that nature. For an adult, and this was the part that I kind of gravitated toward, thinking, wow, will make the point. For an adult, it's when in your home you have guns and weapons to make you feel safe or protected. And so I thought, wow, so that makes my point of, we have all these attachment items. We have a life that we live, and we go as we get older from the whoopee blankie, to sucking our thumb maybe. Then we go to, maybe we smoke pot or take drugs I'm not saying for medicinal, I'm saying because we can't cope, drugs, we don't feel connected,
Sure.
so we don't feel connected socially, so we use drugs,
Those unhealthy coping sort of mechanisms.
all the things that we get addicted to,
Sure.
sex, money, there's a huge list. And so I spoke with the family, because when they came to interview, the mother said, oh, she has this whoopee, and is that okay? And I decided to break my own rule at the daycare, which one of them is you don't bring things from home. At the time I had that rule. However, I decided to step out of that rule and say, okay, I wanted to see. The mother thought, oh, sure, she can put that in her cubby when you ring the bell for cleanup or when you're eating at the table. And I was thinking, it doesn't look like that to me. And sure enough, she could not let go of it, because the mom didn't see her without the mom being there. So she didn't know how she would deal with the whoopee.
Yes,
and she was so attached to that probably very dirty piece of fabric. So every day I would talk to the mom. And when the mom would pick up, I would say to her, why don't we try eliminating the whoopee? Because this is the basis of all those things, all those addictions, that way of life where you're not getting in touch with your true self.
Yeah.
I said, we have an altar, we do yoga, we practice meditation. If the children are acting out, we give them some water, we go to the altar, we do some left nostril breathing to calm down, and we teach them
That's nice.
how to deal with themselves.
Yeah.
Not by giving them this material thing that's going to calm them down and make them feel okay. So the whoopee story, so this is how the story ends.
Dirty little
The mother
thing.
came to me one day and said, I'm cutting the whoopee. Every day I'm putting a piece of it in the garbage. And it's got smaller and smaller and smaller until it was just about this size, a heart shape. And she hand quilted a cushion, a beautiful seat. And in the middle of it was this heart, and she gifted it to me. She was like, I get what you're saying now. Prior to that, she would go home and call. She had many friends that were psychologists and psychiatrists, and she would come back and say to me, can't get rid of the whoopee. It will cause too much trauma.
Yeah, right.
And so, but there it was in the heart.
Oh, that's such a great story.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, Lizzie says to me with the pacifiers, says, no, take it away. He doesn't need it. He's not going to become dependent on that. And I'm like, wow, it's so brilliant,
Right.
And he's not dependent.
Good.
It might help him get to sleep or whatever, but
Yep.
during the day, it's gone. So what a
Right.
great story. Well, it looks like we're out of time. And I want to thank my guest, Amar Fuller. And she is supporting and organizing Epigenetics, How Your Lifestyle Affects Your Destiny, the Health Bazaar and Lecture, September 15th at the West End Event Space at Eastworks. And that's in East Hampton, if you're not aware, Suite 116 Pleasant Street, hosted by the Great Oak Collaborative. And thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure meeting you and hearing your story. And I hope if you have other events, you'll come back and let me help you get the word out.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm bringing a group to the Institute in Florida in West Palm Beach the end of January. And it's going to be talked about at the epigenetics lecture. But if anyone is interested to participate in the 3-week life transformation program, please reach out and I will help you with every step of the way.
Fantastic. And folks, again, can go to the Facebook event page and check this out. Again, epigenetics, I think, is where I found it there.
That's right.
Yeah. So epigenetics, so not genetics, but epigenetics, how your lifestyle affects your destiny. So thank you again. It's a pleasure to have you here. And thank you to our Northampton Community Television audience, Al Williams, Jen and Dave, for their supporting having Valley Free Radio get out onto NCTV and our guests, such as you, out into the community. All right.